Welcome back, friends. Back to Truthseekers. Tonight, we're going to be talking about one of my favorite but very old cases, and that is the Kelly-Hopkinsville encounter. I've got a couple of pages of notes here. First thing that you should know is that this happened way back August 21st in 1995. It was a hot summer night, and shortly after dark, people in a farmhouse were shocked and surprised to discover a flying saucer, a light in the sky outside that seemed to land off in the distance. Next, they started seeing what can only be described as paranormal entities. Some people have called these things the Kentucky Goblins. In fact, there is actually an amazing amount of cultural influence that this case has had. There is a role-playing game where there is a race of monsters called the Hopkins, which were modeled after these extraterrestrials that the people in this farmhouse encountered. There were 5 adults and 7 children in this farmhouse, a couple of men, their mother, their wives, and their children. This story is different from most alien abduction stories because there was actually a firefight. The people in the farmhouse, when they realized that these creatures were peeking through the windows, standing in the door frame, and they felt threatened. One went and got a shotgun, the other a hunting rifle. They shot at these things reportedly for hours and hours. That's why, to me, this is a great story, because how often do we hear an alien story where people are getting guns and shooting at them? By the reports of the eyewitnesses, these things were more or less impervious to the shots that were being fired at them. They would shoot them, they would fall down or back up for a while, and then they would get back up and walk towards these people, which to me is it's just crazy that people were firing guns at these aliens. Hold on one second. I want to get over to the live chat here. Oh, I see UFO Gandalf and Super V Funcat and Reem C. Hello, everyone. And Jonaside, Johnny 7. Shout out to Johnny 7 and Jonaside. And Paranormal Hood Jiggy is here. Hey, why don't you come be a guest, Jiggy? That would be fun. Let's see if we have comments. UFO Gandalf says Steven. And Paranormal Hood. Talking to Reemsey there. So what I have to show you tonight is really just a bunch of screenshots. But then I thought that if this screen share thing is going to work for me tonight, we can also go and hear an explanation from the actual town historian that I found. Let me see if we're going to be able to find that. Just bear with me for a moment, guys. Kelly-Hopkinsville. There was an educational television. No, now I'm not going to find it, of course. I'm sorry here, guys. I'm trying to find the Kentucky Educational. Let's try better search terms. Should have had this link up when I started. Things were a little bit behind tonight. I have a recreation. Oh, I found it. Okay, so rather than me try to tell the story, there's a woman, and she wrote an excellent book that I have. It's called Alien Legacy. It's all about this case and what happened. And this was the daughter of one of the original eyewitnesses who has this book, and she's in the following video, which we're gonna show you, because it's just there's a town historian in this video. The video is put out by Kentucky Educational Television. I don't know if it's copyrighted. I don't think they'll mind, but I'm going to say here, fair use, fair use. We're going to be discussing this after we watch it. So let's see if we can't share the screen here. And I'm going to, we're going to watch this short video. I think it's about 5 minutes. Kelly-Hopkinsville education. There we go. Oh, hell, Kaluk. Oh, no audio vocals. Oh, I guess we're gonna kill the share screen. See, that's what I was talking about. I'm not sure why that didn't work. It's supposed to play the audio as well. You guys couldn't hear you were only hearing the background music. Okay. Well, in the video, they tell the story, which, you saw parts of it. A flying saucer came flying, streaking overhead, and then it landed sort of off in the forest behind their house. Next, they saw 2 to 3 foot tall, silver gray beings floating at them. They were very frightened. The 2 adult males who went in the house, that was Elmer Sutton and Billy Ray Taylor. They went in the house and they told the mother there that there was demons outside or spacemen from Mars. And there's really something there. They sort of argued with the mother, and then they went and got their guns, went back outside and started shooting at this. I'm going to share screen of this. Let me see if I can't find I have a bunch of pictures of what the creatures look like. So let me get one of those. That's there's one of them is the most famous, and I've seen it in books and books and books. Let's see if we can't find it here. Well, this is from the museum. And we have, oh, here's the most famous one. Okay, so we could share the screen on this. On here. And here we go. So this is a drawing from the original witnesses of what they saw. It's also interesting to note that after this event, it got an incredible amount of newspaper coverage. It got local, regional, statewide, and national. Newspapers in whole other cities picked up this story. It was a fantastical story. And it's important to note that this is how the media has a hand in changing things. The description of these beings were that they were silvery gray. But somehow in the newspaper coverage, the beings got changed into being little green men. It's also interesting and of cultural significance that the entire term little green men, it actually came from this case, but they were not little green men. So it's just interesting how the media can twist things. But that whole term, which will be used famously for decades, still is today, oh, did you see little green men? It all came from this case. And I think that this case is interesting because this is not your typical gray aliens. I mean, they have a similar head, but they've got these big goblin ears, sort of, you know. It's also interesting to me that these things were floating at them off the ground, not walking towards them, but they did also say that they were walking or running when they shot them, which is just another, this is just another incredible part of the story. I'm going to see if I can find another depiction. There's a bunch of depictions that I have here. Oh yeah, this is something that I definitely want to share. A few UFO investigators looked into this story and somehow decided that what they saw were not aliens, and that these two gentlemen, Elmer Sutton and Billy Ray Taylor, may have been intoxicated. Um, but there's just an anecdotal report that they may have been intoxicated and be seeing these huge eagle owls, which are huge owls, or great horned owls. And here we see a comparison of the creatures that they reported that had arms and legs and an actual, I believe this one is a great horned owl. I myself do not believe that farm people or country people wouldn't know if they saw an owl. I have seen great horned owls and many other different species of owls just in the forest near my cabin. I never thought they were little aliens. So what happens is these guys are shooting reportedly for hours at these things, and they just keep coming, 12 to 15 of them. Eventually, the attack, whatever you want to call it, sort of subsided. And the two gentlemen, their mother, their wives, and their children, all directly after this incident of shooting these aliens for hours and trying to fight them off, ended up at the local police station. Now, local police investigated, but when they went there, they found no evidence other than broken windows from gunshots, because they were apparently inside the house shooting through the windows at these creatures. And, you know, they found a lot of spent shell casings and, you know, shotgun shells and spent, you know, bullet casings all over the place, which would indicate that they were shooting off a lot of guns. It doesn't really prove they were shooting at aliens, but these guys were going at it, shooting guns at these people, which is crazy. I'll show you another depiction here. Let's see if I can find there have been these things have been, and I want to show you. Actually, I wanted to show you this. This is the original farmhouse, which is still there. Interestingly, it's still there, and that would be the original farmhouse that this happened in. So I'm going to go to the live chat and take some of your comments and questions. Oh, Reemsy says, I can't tell if that alien looks friendly or not. It might be nice. Yeah, I don't think it was nice if these people felt threatened enough to shoot at it. But you never know. Maybe they were just coming to say hello right up to the farmhouse window. I don't know. And Super V Fun Cat says they were terrified. Dang. And Super V, I never knew that the V was for the. Is that for the original V series? The reptilians. V, the final battle. Because if so, that's probably my favorite science fiction series of all time. Yeah, that is. Out of Mind says that is lots of ammo. And Super V Fun Cat also says, no wonder we hear of so few silver goblin aliens. They got shot at. Yeah, maybe they phoned home and told everybody, don't go to this place called Earth. They got guns and they shoot at us. So I think, the story has had this tremendous cultural impact. And I don't think that a lot of people just kind of don't. I haven't heard this story with a lot of UFO conferences or anything. It's kind of just one of those old stories that fell by the wayside. But somebody reminded me, and by the way, I must be the last person in Conspiracy Land who has not seen anything, not one episode or anything of Hellier. But somebody in the live chat, if you could tell me, isn't Hellier has something to do with this case? Like they're returning, or like this alien race from this original incident is returning. Oh, Super V. I'm Vanessa and the fifth child, but my favorite old school sci-fi too. Yeah, I loved V growing up. I thought that was the greatest science fiction story ever. These benevolent aliens come and they really are eating us, carting our bodies off, and they're sucking the earth dry of water. That was their real agenda. So that's awesome. We're going to go back to this share screen here. Oh, let me see if I can. There was something else. Oh, yeah. We were talking about the cultural impact of this thing. And so I wanted to show some of the cultural impact because I think it's important. This has been made into comic books by not one, but 3 different comic book companies put this story into a comic book about aliens. One was Alien Encounters, and I have that comic book, which is great. It's got Billy Meyer and the Hopkinsville Kelly case, and Roswell, and a few others all jammed into one comic book. And when you're 10 years old, this was a cool thing to get. And also, the rest of the town, Kelly celebrates the anniversary of the event every year. They have this big festival. And Hopkinsville itself has a museum that is just dedicated to this event, which I think is crazy that they did an entire museum, but it's a little, small town in Kentucky, I guess. They don't have much else to attract tourists. If anybody has been there, I'd like to know about it. Dan Hogan. He says, Hellier was entertaining, but some of their theories are a real stretch. And Paranormal Jiggy, we even judge aliens in their looks just because they may not look like we want them to. Jiggy, I always think it's crazy that every alien is bipedal and generally humanoid in appearance. Because I don't know, just from a science perspective, I think like planets are going to have different levels of solar radiation. They're going to have different temperatures. They're going to have different gravities. Why would every alien evolve to be generally humanoid in shape and appearance? Or is that us projecting that, oh, the aliens are, when we find them, they're going to be a lot like us? That might be wishful thinking. And Out of Mind says, Hellier is on my list to watch. It's on my list. I don't know how I missed it, because I remember when everybody was talking about it, but I was just so busy at the time. I didn't have time to deal with it. So I got a little bit more notes. One often missed point of this story that I got from the book that the daughter of this Elmer Sutton wrote, which was that the next day, the family was worried that they would come back, and apparently they did at 3:30 in the morning. Or, I mean, when they got back from the police station, they were worried that the aliens would be back. So at about 3:30 in the morning, the aliens did come back. There was more shots fired at them, and the next day, the family packed up and left, claiming the creatures had returned at 3:30 a.m. And like I said, there's some skeptics' explanations which just don't make sense. First of all, a skeptic looked into this case and said there was meteors in the area. Well, I think it's a stretch that somebody sees a fireball in the sky. Why would they say they saw a flying saucer land off in the woods behind their house? You know, they would say a red fireball maybe landed behind their house. So I don't really buy the meteors for the skeptic's explanation. My favorite, though, is that there was reported during this event that there was blue lights off in the forest. Some skeptic came up with some crazy theory called foxfire, which is a bioluminescent fungus on decaying wood. And he said that's what could have caused the blue lights off in the forest. I don't know how many of you have spent any time in a forest, but I have a cabin. It's surrounded by literally hundreds of acres of woods. I've never seen the phenomenon known as foxfire or bioluminescent fungus on decaying wood. So I kind of call bullshit on that explanation for why there was blue lights off in the forest. And then we have, again, several skeptics have said that they were drunk and they were seeing eagle owls or great horned owls, and that is why these things were floating at them, because they were birds and they were flying. But I would think that if you saw like a big owl flapping its wings and you were familiar, you lived in the country, you would know it's an owl. So I just don't buy the skeptics. You guys know that generally I'm more skeptical than most believers in this phenomenon, but in this case, I do not believe the skeptic's explanation. This foxfire thing is ridiculous. There was a bioluminescent fungus on decaying wood in the forest, and that's the blue light they were seeing. And also, I looked up this phenomenon, and it's not super bright. It's like glow-in-the-dark paint on the side of a log that's rotting, and it's not even that bright. So, no, I don't buy that. Like I said, there's a huge influence on pop culture. Again, Little Green Men. The term Little Green Men came from this case. There's a Pokemon character based on these creatures. Project Blue Book, in the 4th episode of the 2nd season, focuses on this Kelly-Hopkinsville encounter. That actually is what reminded me of this case. I first learned about this case probably when I was in grade school. My school library had like 3 books on UFOs, and they were from like the 1960s and 70s, but this case was in one of them. And also there is, in the Pathfinder role-playing game, there is a class of monsters called the Hopkins, which are based on these creatures. Let's see, Jasmine Emmerich. I totally understand your point. As you know, Hellier is in truth just an experience, quite a few plot holes and things that don't make sense. Still enjoyable to me. And Super V, no one would blast their home apart unless there was a real perceived threat. Yeah, that gave me another reason to believe it. Like, you don't shoot the windows out of your house, especially if you're kind of poor farm folk, because, you know, windows aren't cheap. I don't buy that they just saw owls and they started shooting out their house just from owls. And the other thing that should be mentioned is that their mother, it's a shame I couldn't play that video. The person that wrote the book explained that the reason that this story was so well believed in the community was because of the mother of these two, who was a Christian, God-fearing, salt of the earth, just good woman that everybody in the community knew and respected. So when she said, yeah, this actually happened, and the local sheriff interviewed her every time, and the local sheriff commented that whatever she saw scared the living hell out of her, and he believed that she was telling the honest to God truth. It's kind of crazy. Oh yeah, Out of Mind says weather balloons. I don't know. I like this foxfire bioluminescent fungus. That's better than swamp gas or weather balloons to me, though. Ooh, there we go. Super V Fun Cat and Jasmine Emmerich are talking about Hellier here, I believe. They say, yeah, I tried again recently, but the dialogue and writing to me was too phony to stomach the past 4 episodes, but I tried. Yeah, I'm not really sure what the deal with Hellier is, because I think it's kind of marketed as a documentary, but people are telling me it's a lot of made up stuff thrown in there, and that there's plot holes and things don't make sense. I'm going to watch it anyway because it's something fun, and like Jasmine Emmerich said, it is an experience. Oh, and Dark Cooper says ball lightning, honorable mention. I like swamp gas, ball lightning, weather balloons, and this new thing that I've heard about for this case, foxfire, which is a bioluminescent fungus on decaying wood, as an explanation for paranormal activity. That is my favorite of let's just grasp at any straw that we could possibly grasp at to get this thing going to debunk this. Sometimes they have crazy explanations. Out of Mind says, thank you, Jasmine. I remember the case from when I was a kid. Yeah, so do I. And Super V Fun Cat. Wasn't this story featured in Project Blue Book? It was investigated, right. I believe that somebody from Project Blue Book, years after the event, from the book that I read on this, yes, interviewed the original witnesses. They didn't really make a determination. They just kind of left it at these were eyewitness reports, and they didn't draw any kind of conclusions. Kind of hard to draw conclusions. One of the reasons I like this story is because it's never been proven that these people faked it. And even the children that were in the home years later were interviewed by people and told of the story of being terrified, of looking out the window and seeing these little silver gray beings encroaching on their house, and their fathers outside with guns shooting these things. The wives of these guys were also interviewed by the local sheriff. The mother was interviewed. They've all been interviewed, and years later, they've all stuck to their original story. And generally, the story was not embellished or added to, or any, there was nobody in this story was suffering from UFO disease, which I like to call it UFO disease. It's like you tell your story, people get sick of it. You got to add to the story. You got to embellish. You got to, I had some recovered memories, or I went under hypnosis and I remembered more about that night. None of that ever happened. It's just the story has stayed the way that they told it since 1955, more or less. The biggest issue that I saw with the story being twisted around a little bit is just that somehow newspaper men ran with the story, Little Green Men Invade Hopkinsville, Kentucky, and attack a farm. Somehow it got turned into Little Green Men. I'm not sure how that is. And we see Reamsey says foxfire is a real thing. It occurs frequently in Appalachia. Folks know about it. I did the entire Appalachian Trail backpacking a long time ago. I never saw any. I'm not saying it doesn't exist. I'm just saying that I think it's really grasping for straws to say that the blue lights that they saw off in the forest were this thing. I believe it exists. I looked it up. I saw, examples of it, but it's not very bright. And the new explanation for everything, Dan Hogan says, Elon Musk satellites. Yeah, but what a lot of people don't realize is those satellites, they're micro satellites. There could be satellites the size of like a basketball. And Elon Musk is launching hundreds or thousands of these mini or micro satellites. That's the new big thing. There's a lot of startups out in California. My friend works for one of them, and they're launching mini satellites for all different things. So a lot of these UFO sightings or UAP sightings could very well be these new satellites. There's so many up there. At my cabin is in the mountains. It's actually in the highest elevation, the highest point in the Pennsylvania state. That's how high up it is. You, with a bare naked eye, you could see all kinds of satellites going over. That's how high up we are, especially on a clear night, or if there's a full moon, especially, we see the ISS all the time, and we see some satellites fly over. I even got a satellite mapping program so that I could try to see them, and I have a telescope. I mean, but really, you could see them with the naked eye. So it wouldn't surprise me if some of this stuff is actually just satellites that people have been seeing. So, friends, I don't know if anybody wants to call in, but we are going to try to allow that. Let me see if I can get back to. Oh, here we go. So I have a sort of ramshackle call-in line system, but we're going to give that a shot, and you have to bear with me. Anybody have children? I can always tell when my children had my phone, because the phone is super sticky. They get sticky stuff on everything. I don't know what they do. It was today we had a birthday party for my son Xavier, who turns 4 on Thursday, and they went nuts with the icing. They went absolutely nuts with the icing. So I got the phone here ready. I'm going to play the bumper for the call-in number. If anybody wants to call in, you can talk about this case. We can talk about Hellier. We can talk about anything that you want to talk about. Just open line here. So let's see if we can't play that. Here we go, folks. And you may want to wait a minute or so after this plays before you start dialing. And here we go. We're going to open phone lines. You can call in and be on Truth Seekers with us. Everybody is welcome. And we can talk about anything you like. So let's open the phone lines. Okay, folks. So we have open lines. Otherwise, we're going to take questions or comments from the live chat here, and I would thank you all for joining us. And I do want to take a minute. I'm bad at this stuff. To tell everybody, I would appreciate. I made what may have been not the right decision to start a brand new YouTube channel for this show. My old channel, honestly, was just like a creative dump for me. If I worked on music, if I worked on a radio show, whatever I did creatively, I just dumped on that channel. And hello, this is.
Press 1. To send a voicemail.
I have to accept the call. Here we go. Hello, this is Stephen on Truthseekers. Who are you and where are you calling from?
Oh, it's just Reemsy. How are you doing, Stephen?
Reemsy, I'm so happy to put a voice to you. That's awesome. Thank you for calling in.
Well, I just wanted to tell you about Foxfire because that's something that we do see around here.
Yeah, where are you located at? Where, like, if you don't want to tell me exactly, just generally.
I'm about 150 miles from Hopkinsville.
Oh wow, in Kentucky still?
Yeah, and that stuff. You know how in the morning you'll go out and you'll see a bunch of mushrooms or whatever in your yard, and you go do whatever you're doing outside, and the next time you turn around and the mushrooms are gone. That's how that Foxfire operates. It doesn't sit there and glow at you for a heck of a long time.
It's a quick burst of light.
And I'm certainly not saying that in this Hopkinsville case that the forest was lit up with that stuff, because it's just not like that. The best way that I can describe the way that stuff looks, you know what lightning bugs or fireflies look like.
Yeah, sure.
It's just about like that, and the times that I have seen it, it has looked about that color, that kind of strange greenish yellow color.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, I found an example of it, and somebody had a video of it, and it looked sort of blue-green to me. But it just looked like glow-in-the-dark paint, or, like a lightning bug kind of brightness. You could see that it was brighter than the surrounding areas.
That's what it reminded me of whenever I've seen that stuff. And you will see it. We particularly will get that stuff after it rains. The people around here talk about it.
Yeah, nature is always fascinating to me. So like the bioluminescent seaweed, I saw that someplace where we were vacationing once, and I thought that was the coolest thing I'd ever seen.
Yeah, but I don't think that has anything to do with what was going on in that forest where those people were shooting at aliens or whatever.
So do you think that they were seeing Foxfire, or do you think that they were seeing lights from an alien spacecraft, though?
It ain't no lights from an alien spacecraft, that's for sure. I'm having one hell of a hard time hearing you, dude.
Oh, I'm sorry. Here, let me.
I just wanted to call in and say something about that Foxfire, because I've always kind of been fascinated with that stuff.
Yeah, it sounds like a cool thing. I want to find some now.
There you go. All right, well, I'm going to get off here and watch the rest of your show now.
Okay, thanks, Reemsy. It's so good to put a voice to you.
Okay, well,
nice.
You have a happy night.
You too. Thank you for calling. So, if anybody else wants to call in, I forgot to copy the number and paste it into the live chat. Let me see, Paranormal Jiggy. A lot of these sightings should be group sighting with multiple people recording. You hear mad people in the background in some cases. I think Jiggy's talking about one of his previous comments was that these people have 4K, picture capability on their phones, but nobody can zoom in. One of the things that bothers me about some of the so-called evidence of UFOs is that it's always this grainy, old-looking, like they did it with a VHS or something. And I would think with the preponderance of all these iPhones and Android phones that have incredible, you could buy a phone for $100 that has incredible video and picture taking quality. And we just don't see really good, clear pictures. So Paranormal Jiggy may be onto something. And we have Reemsy call in to give us some education on this Foxfire, which I'm glad for. I knew very little about it. But I thought that the skeptics were sort of Yeah, out of mind, you are right. So the call-in number is 262-482-0616. If anybody else would like to call in, our lines are still open. And I just want to mention, please don't call that number any other time than when our lines are open, because I'm still trying to figure out how to turn the forwarding on or off to the phone that I'm using for this. Yeah, Paranormal Jiggy. They catch every twerk and fist fight on video, but never a clear UFO. It's also kind of true for Bigfoot sightings. You know, like why is every Bigfoot video all grainy and it's off in the distance and it's just a figure walking, or you know, it's always obscured by a few trees very conveniently. I always have a problem with some of the Bigfoot videos that I've seen. And so I wanted to mention that we're still looking for guests. If anybody is interested, you can DM me on Twitter. We've got upcoming shows. We have it's Rachel Hoffman, I believe. She's from Paranormal Expeditions, and she's a ghost hunter, a really cool girl. And I'm so glad that I'm going to get to talk to her because honestly, I know Paranormal Jiggy and Smoke King, right? Didn't you guys do a lot of like ghost hunting kind of stuff or like haunted houses? I've never done anything on ghost hunting, haunted houses, any of that. I'm somewhat interested in it. I just don't know anything about ghosts, ghost hunting. I've done a little bit of a deep dive into EVPs, which I'm still not, the verdict is still out for me. If these EVPs are like just static from baby monitors or, you know, transmission overlaying or if it is actually a paranormal phenomenon. And we have Super V Funcat says, I don't think legit non-terrestrial UFOs can be detectable by any camera or radar, but I know they come. Yes, I've often thought that they may have, if they have sufficient technology to travel from another star system, I believe that they cannot be seen by the naked eye or, you know, anybody really, unless they want to be seen. If people want to be, if they want to be seen, and Grant Cameron talks a lot about this. They got to have the circus so that people pay attention. So whatever message they're trying to come across. And why do UFOs always have all these crazy lights on them? If you were trying to be stealthy, you wouldn't have, you know, rotating colored lights on the craft. That's always kind of, yeah, Out of Mind says, that drives me nuts when shots are all grainy and pixelated. And Reemsey says Sasquatch stays permanently out of focus to frustrate attempts to document it. And Paranormal Jiggy commenting on the ghost hunting. Yes, we still do. Normally we'd be doing stuff, but surgery and then COVID put everything on hold. Bro, I hear you. My entire life has been on hold. I think I stopped counting at 74 days of quarantine. And by quarantine, I mean I have not really gone anywhere. I go to get gasoline and I go to the cabin. And that's it. My wife does the grocery shopping and she just goes once a week. And she's been also home trying to work from home 3 or 4 days a week. And we've gone nowhere. We've done nothing. The good thing that I will say is that I got frustrated about it 2 weeks in. And I decided that if I'm stuck and I can't do anything or go anywhere, I was going to use the time to my advantage. So I started going to the cabin, and instead of going, I used to go on Friday night and stay until Sunday afternoon or something, and come home by dinner time on Sunday. I started going on Wednesday and Thursday mostly, but sometimes even Wednesday. So I'd have Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and my poor wife was home with these two crazy kids. But the good news is I got so much done at the cabin. I finished the new living room, and now I'm working on the bathroom. I just finished the stone shower. So yeah, everything has been on hold as far as the. Jasmine Emmerich says can't get through, but I am out in the boonies. It's a Google number, so it should work anywhere in the country in the United States. If you want to keep trying, I'll keep the phone here on hand in case you want to call in. That would be great. Yeah, I'm sorry if you're having trouble getting through. The other thing, I keep forgetting to mention this, but with the software that we're using here, I'm fine with pulling people, especially you guys, everybody that's in the live chat. Not a lot of people have found out about this new show yet. So we're going to be sort of a small group for a while, and that's fine. But I know most of you guys or know you from my previous show, and I'm very familiar with you. So if you want to just come right in the show on your webcam, just put an email address into the live chat. And then I can send you the link and you can come right and be on the screen with me right on the show. A big point of this show, I want it to be a lot more interactive. My previous show was on radio and podcast networks and all this stuff. And it was first of all, it was pre-recorded. So there was zero interaction with the audience. Then we started doing these live chat premieres of the shows. And there was I really liked the interactivity and being able to talk to the listeners and have the listeners sort of participate more. With this show, I want the audience to be a huge part of the show. It's not just me here. That's why I called it Truthseekers, because I hope we're all out there looking for the truth behind some of these stories. I want everybody to participate. So if people want to come on a webcam or, even if you just want to, put a piece of tape over your webcam and just, be a voice on the show. That's fine too. Just, let me know when you come in and I can send the links out. And Bee Gees is here. Shout out to Bee Gees. Jasmine Emmerich, who, by the way, is a great researcher and does some really deep digging and interesting stuff. She says, what intrigues me about the Hopkinsville case is that the craft crashed. Out came beings who approached a home. If your car crashed before cell phones, wouldn't you approach a home for help? Yeah, I mean, maybe the craft crashed and they were just walking around trying to figure out what to do next or seeing if they could find some help. We don't know. But it's interesting that, here we have... Out of Mind says, Stephen, it is really nice to see you on screen again. There is avoiding great content, except on Thursday nights. Yes, and I'm glad Jiggy is here. Jiggy, I'm going to do my best to I don't know, you guys start at like 8 o'clock? I have to check just to be sure. I'm going to do my best to try to not be streaming when Jiggy or others are streaming, but sometimes that may be unavoidable. And also, it's interesting. I swore when I started the show, I was going to do a show every day. I've got, like tonight's show, I've been making paper notes about each show and each case. And I just have a couple of pages of notes, but I have a big folder over there that's just filled with cases. I kind of went back to my roots and go, what are the cases that I read about when I was a child or when I started looking into this stuff that was so interesting to me and why? And I have a huge amount of material ready that we could do shows on. So at first I said, I'm going to do a show every day. But, things get in the way. Life, kids, COVID, the cabin is killing me. If you guys haven't seen it, I've been building a stone shower, which is like a 12-foot tall stone wall. And a lot of things. So I will say I'm going to do at the very, very least, one show. I'm going to try to do 2 or 3 a week. And, I've even just installed, we got internet at the cabin, which was so funny because the poor cable guy had to run 2 miles of cable in the forest, like through the woods to get it to my cabin. I felt so bad for the guy. And then I looked at my wallet and I only had $8. So I felt real cheap, but I gave him the $8 and said, I'm sorry I had to do all that. Thank you. But the interesting thing is that the internet is working at the cabin. And I didn't realize it, but over the weekend I did do a test. I forgot that I could just mark the broadcast as private and then nobody would see it, because I wanted to check to make sure it wouldn't be like choppy and jumpy. And it looks like I'll be able to do a show right from the cabin, which will be interesting because there are people around my cabin, other guys with cabins or people that live up there in the mountains permanently who swear they see UFOs, who swear they've seen Bigfoot. And somebody else told me a story about seeing something like a Jersey Devil in the woods. So we may have some really, I don't want to say strange local guests, but we may have some interesting local guests at the cabin to tell us about some of the stuff that's going on around the cabin. And it's just also going to be fun that I can do a show from there, and it should enable me to do more shows. Bee Gees. And we have here Lizzie says, "Hi, IKR Brooke. Been hermiting out a bit." Yeah, I think, Lizzie, that we're all hermiting out a bit, right? And you know what's funny is like you see those memes about like, I'm an introvert. I've been preparing for this my whole life. Like I don't generally, I get on my wife's nerves because like she has to do everything. Like if somebody's got to go to the dry cleaner, the bank, the supermarket, run errands. She generally has to do all that stuff. I'm a home person. Like I don't want to go anywhere. I don't want to do anything. I'm very comfortable in my cave or or in my cabin too. Like I don't really want to go anywhere. I go to the cabin and I stay there all weekend. I make sure that I have everything that I need when I go there. I don't want to go anywhere. So this quarantine has really not affected me as much as some of my, I guess, more extroverted friends. I have friends that like to go out to bars and party every night, and they are bored out of their minds and complaining constantly. When is this going to be over? I don't care. I don't really, I don't like to go anywhere, and it's given me time to really prepare for this show. There's two ways you can look at this. Either I'm going to sit here and be bored out of my skull for the next, 10 weeks or whatever. We didn't know how long it was going to be. Does anybody remember when it was 2 weeks to flatten the curve? What happened to 2 weeks to flatten the curve? It turned into 2.5 months. And Bee Gees asked, so did you guys talk about Hellier? Yes, I did. I joked that I'm like the only person in conspiracy land that has not seen Hellier, but somebody reminded me earlier on Twitter that Hellier has something to do with this original case. And I think that is maybe that the creatures are returning after all these years. I haven't seen it. Yeah, BG says, cool. I know they did a bit on the Hopkinsville deal. Yeah, so, this story has been really just one of those stories that, especially if you buy a lot of UFO books that are not specific to one case, like if you buy a general UFO book, this is mentioned in so many different books. I mean, it's a great story. And the daughter of this Elmer Sutton, let me see if I can find that. She has a book. Let me see if we can find that book. Oh, and you know what? First, I'm going to show you this. This is pretty cool. This is actually, I believe, a UFO investigator who made a model of the creature, and that is what we get. It looks like a little goblin. So that is a model. And here we go. We're going to come back to that. I'm going to try to find this. Oh, yeah, I wanted to show this as well. We mentioned this story got an incredible amount of newspaper coverage, and here is just one of those. And again, we have the alien drawings by the Sutton family. Story of spaceship, 12 little men probed today. Kelly farmhouse scene of alleged raid by a strange crew last night. Reports say bullets failed to affect the visitors. Yeah, the Sutton family later said that they believed that these creatures had some kind of body armor, which protected them from the bullets. I mean, the one in the book, this Elmer Sutton said that he's sure that he shot one point blank, almost point blank, several times, and it went down, and it backed away, and then it came back a few minutes later. So this is just this crazy kind of a thing, and imagine being these farm people. They weren't sure if it was demons or goblins or what it was. And there's a funny reenactment on YouTube. I was going to try to play that too, but it's a little over the top. And the guys in the recreation are like, "This is straight out to hell, Ma," and they're kind of like, they hicked them up. They made them like really like hillbilly kind of people. And let's see here. Okay, I wanted to mention the book, and this is Geraldine Sutton. Is that Stiff? I believe so. And that is her book, Alien Legacy, the Kelly Green Men Alien Legacy Revisited. I believe is another one. I've read this one. I have not read the second one. So if you are interested in this, I would say support her and buy the book because it's a great story. And this is all stuff that she's heard about her whole life from her grandmother and her father. And also, one of the other things I wanted to mention about the story, and the reason that I like it and think it may be true, is because these were not UFO profiteers. They did not go and work the UFO circuit for 20 years like so many other people do when they so-called have some kind of experience like this. Nobody has really tried to profit from this. The only profit, I guess, that the family has gotten from it, and this is a generation later, is from this book. And I don't blame her. This is her family. This is her family history. I don't blame her one bit for writing a book or for selling it. In fact, I'm glad she did. The book was thoroughly enjoyable, and it provides a lot of background, not just about the actual event, but the book sort of focuses on the circus that happened. These people were hounded by the media for years and years after this. She's quoted in another documentary saying, after that day, life for her family would never be the same because they became sort of local celebrities, and people from all over the country would just knock on their door and ask for an interview. And then they'd have a newspaper story, in California the next week or something. So the story has captivated people for, all of these years, decades and decades. They haven't really profited from it except for the book. And again, I don't blame her for selling a book because it's her family history. And I found the book made me think the story was more credible. Okay, let's see. I've heard a train driver saw the crash. Yes, I believe you. Oh, I'm sorry. BG's said, I've heard a train driver saw the crash. I believe that you are correct. So that means it's mentioned in the book. So there's corroborating witnesses, not so much to seeing the aliens, but to seeing some sort of flying craft crash right in that area. There was a train went by. The train conductor reported that he saw something crash. He thought it was an airplane crash. And Jasmine Emmerich, Super V, is talking to Super V, Fun Cat. Allegedly, some kind of blue goo blood. It wasn't mentioned in Hellier, but another YouTube video I watched. Okay. And Super V, Fun Cat, their testimonials caused their immediate reputations to be dragged through the mud. Who would volunteer for that? Yeah, but I think by and large, like most of the, some of the town people, of course, are going to make fun of them. Those drunks out there saw aliens, but the majority of the town, including the town historian today and the former police chief that interviewed all of them, went out to the scene, he believed them, and so did a lot of people in the town. They just had tremendous respect for the mother of the family, and that's. But I'm sure that that's one of the things that I always think about when somebody comes out with a crazy story like this. Like, why would you want that crazy story to be about why would you want to come up with some crazy story and be mocked, and made fun of for your crazy story? Some people seem to not mind their crazy stories coming out. And Jasmine Emmerich says, yes, 1955. I have it here in my notes. It was August 21st, 1955 is the date that this happened. And one of the other things that I always found this case interesting for is this is before the media and movies and science fiction and popular culture and sci-fi books and comic books all came up with the popular image of the gray alien. because I always find it kind of crazy that everybody's seeing those gray aliens, and when somebody reports seeing an alien, it just so happens to look like the same kind of alien that everybody else is seeing. These are distinctly different, and it's always been interesting to me, like, oh, these aren't the typical gray alien that everybody sees. There's something else. And Super V, I wonder what caused the crash. Now I need to read more. Yeah, they don't really speculate in her book what caused the crash. And BG says, agreed, the book looks good. I agree. The book definitely looks good. Well, folks, I think we've been at it just over an hour. I think we're gonna call it a day here. Oh, let's see here. Reemsey says, I saw a UFO once, but never an alien. Me too. I tell this whole story of what I saw when I was a child in the woods. And that's what got me started down all these crazy, crazy rabbit holes. Okay, so I'm going to actually, I keep forgetting to do things. And it's so funny. Like, I realized that I had bumpers for things like the call-in line, and I have a bumper for the start of the show, but I have yet to remember to make a bumper to end the show with. So I'm going to just play out this one that's like, I think it says, we'll be right back, but we won't be right back. But I want to thank each and every one of you for joining us. Let's see here. Let's come back to these comments. Okay, let's see. Out of mind. Thanks, Stephen. I totally enjoyed this. Have a great week. Oh, I want to thank all you guys that were in the live chat tonight. It was so nice that I've seen so many people from the Midnight Hour show find me already. And we're already up to over 100 subscribers, or 130 or something. And I want to tell you, the best way to help me right now would be to like, share, and subscribe. And also retweet this stuff and share it on your social media so that more people can find us quickly. Like I said, I'm not sure it was such a great idea to come up with a brand new YouTube channel. Maybe I should have just left it on my old one, but that was kind of a hodgepodge of so many different things. I really wanted this show to stand alone and be on its own channel so that people could find me. BG says, night, guys. Yeah, so I'm going to play us out with some music from a friend's music project. And again, it's going to say we'll be right back, but remember, we won't. Until next time, folks, I'm Stephen Cambion. Good night.